Welcome to But Frankly Pierce News. I'm Arthur Fairview. Here's what we're facing.
So, what'll it be today? Florida man?
Other Florida man? Tucker Carlson getting fired right after 92-year-old Rupert Murdoch broke up with his 66-year-old fiancée?
Maybe some hanky-panky was going on. Or a little Mrs. Robinson action?
Hey, what are you doing, Arthur?
I need a noun.
A noun? How about money? As in, I don't get paid enough.
Yeah, good. How about a gerund?
I don't know, buying? Like, we are buying time while you do this?
Yeah, that works. Adjective.
Perhaps easier, as it would have been easier if you just did the show?
Perfect.
What are you doing? We have a newscast happening.
I know, but while you were talking, I started working on a little Mad Libs to start things off with a different feel. Give it a little kick.
Oh, this should be good.
All right, here it goes. Money is important in politics. How many times have you heard candidates or PACs asking for money for a campaign? But did you know that buying a Supreme Court judge is easier than you think?
I thought it was senators.
No, members of Congress is the way to go.
Buying a United States congressman is one of the best investments a corporation can make.
Oh, I just throw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm a professional criminal, and I find that disturbing.
The Supreme Court is under fire from all the negative press about ethics. Senate Judiciary Committee met Tuesday, where partisan politics took center stage over the issue at hand, having a code of conduct for the Supreme Court.
This should not be that big a deal.
Agreed. They should be held to a high standard as Supreme Court justices.
Certain justices have come under fire from demonstrating what certainly appears to be a lack of ethics. From the millions the wife of Chief Justice Roberts made from headhunting, recruiting, and placing lawyers in law firms, to Justice Neil Gorsuch refusing to disclose who bought a $1.8 million property from him in Colorado.
Who was it?
Brian Duffy, chief executive of Greenberg Traurig, one of the nation's biggest law firms that frequently has cases before the court.
Oh, no conflict of interest there.
What about Clarence?
Oh, yes. Do tell us about Clarence Thomas.
Where do I begin? From his wife's text to Mark Meadows, a 29 text message exchange between November 2020 and January 2021, to lavish vacations paid for by Republican mega donor Harlan Crow, to the properties Crow purchased from Thomas, including the one his mother lives in.
Clearly, something is rotten in Denmark.
Actually, I think that's D.C.
I know. That was a quote.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Moving on. The debt ceiling crisis. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy got his measure passed with not a single vote to spare.
Oh, good for you.
But it appears he only got the votes because everyone knew it was dead on arrival in the Senate.
Yeah, clearly he is not leading the caucus. They're leading him. Obviously, the tail is wagging the dog.
McCarthy became Speaker after an unprecedented 15 rounds of voting, giving up major concessions to the extreme members of the party.
Yep, sold his soul to the MAGA crowd.
The bill, as I mentioned, is a non-starter. The Senate will not pass it. President Biden has said he will veto anything except a clean bill to raise the debt ceiling. According to the New York Times, McCarthy cannot bring his caucus together behind a budget plan. This was his big moment to prove that he could get his colleagues behind a bill and to put pressure on the Biden administration.
The goal was to put pressure?
There is so much to get done, and all he wants to do is apply pressure.
Under pressure. McCarthy is trying to restore the old Republican idea that the only way to make the economy work is to slash taxes, business regulation, and government spending.
Good luck with that.
Next, we discuss the problem with decorum.
What is wrong with decorum?
I think rules and respect are important.
Said the voices that always interrupt me. 3 weeks after the Tennessee House voted to expel state representatives Justin Jones and Justin J. Pearson for using a megaphone on the floor during a gun reform protest, Republicans who dominate the Montana House of Representatives voted to formally punish Democratic Representative Zooey Zephyr. The formal punishment bans Zephyr from attending or speaking during floor sessions. She will only be allowed to vote remotely in the remaining days of the legislative session. It is a lesser punishment than expulsion, which was also on the table according to House leadership.
I sense a disturbing trend.
What did she do to deserve this?
Just like in Tennessee, the offense was breaking the rules of decorum. Other state legislatures are taking notice of this trend. While some feel decorum rules create space for civil discussions, Jake Grumbach, a professor of political science, said, "We're now seeing a huge amount of national tug of war over the direction of the country happening at the state level, because that's where the political opportunities are."
Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not.
Why, thank you. The Republicans seem to exploit their advantage within the bounds of the law more than Democrats have.
Indeed, yes. And please let me know if I have misunderstood or gotten any of this wrong, but Republican-dominated state legislatures in other states have taken more extreme steps to penalize Democrats.
Too true. Quite correct.
Thank you.
All correct. But the question is, why now?
Surely they can't all be coming up with these ideas on their own.
Yes, I must concur.
And don't call me Shirley.
Representative Zephyr rose in dissent to the governor's amendments to Senate Bill 99, which bans gender-affirming care. As the first trans representative elected in Montana, this is a subject she knows a little something about. Here's what happened.
If you disallow the use of the medical care that is accepted by every major medical association, if you disallow that care and don't allow people to have access to that, the only therapy left is either A, meaningless, or B, conversion therapy, which is torture. I also want to point out, again, gender-affirming care is not Orwellian newspeak, as it says in this letter. It is accepted by every major medical association. I will also say what I said down in committee earlier. This bill tries to define male and female as binary. You could not legislate binary sex any more than you could legislate that the earth is flat. Intersex people exist, trans people exist, and this bill doesn't change that. Lastly, I would say that there were conversations at the end of this, at the very end of the bill, the letter that says life-altering medical procedures should wait until they are adults. What I will say is if you are, by this bill and by what these amendments do, if you are forcing a trans child to go through puberty when they are trans, that is tantamount to torture. And this body should be ashamed.
I have to agree.
They should be ashamed.
Well, the majority leader, Sue Vinton, took exception to the comments.
I speak on behalf of our caucus. We will not be shamed by anyone in this chamber. We are better than that.
Are you? Are you really?
Doesn't look that way to me.
This next part gets to the crux of the matter. Listen again to Representative Zephyr.
And the only thing I will say is if you vote yes on this bill, and yes on these amendments, I hope the next time there's an invocation, when you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands.
Zephyr was referring to the amount of suicides or suicidal ideation involving trans people affected by this kind of legislation. Once again, Sue Vinton wouldn't let the comment stand.
That is entirely inappropriate, disrespectful, and uncalled for. We can debate matters civilly and with respect for each other.
Respectfully and civilly?
Must have hit pretty close to the mark to get that reaction.
Now, guess who's back?
Looks like you're not sleeping well.
Oh my God, are you crazy?
Again?
Back in August 2021, software engineer Robert Zeidman entered the Prove Mike Wrong challenge, in which Lindell offered $5 million to anyone who could prove that the data he claims showing how China interfered in the 2020 presidential election was inaccurate.
Easy money.
After Zeidman determined that the data provided during a 3-day cyber symposium in Sioux Falls, South Dakota had nothing to do with the 2020 election results, Lindell refused to pay the promised amount. The arbitration panel has since ruled in Zeidman's favor and ordered Lindell to pay up.
It's time to pay the piper.
Despite the ruling, Zeidman, who describes himself as a conservative Republican, does not expect to see any money. He stated, "Lindell will delay it as long as he can, but I also think he's going to lose in the cases that are brought against him by Dominion voting systems and Smartmatic. I think that'll put him out of business for good."
Here's hoping.
Both companies have filed defamation lawsuits against Lindell, claiming he falsely accused them of rigging the 2020 presidential election.
Which he did.
And it worked against Fox News.
Lindell told the Associated Press that he has no intention of paying the $5 million to Zeidman, and that he expects the dispute will end up in court.
Which it will.
According to Zeidman, the data included no discernible information whatsoever. It was pages and pages of numbers, and in other cases, a table full of gibberish, as if someone had sat there for hours and just typed random stuff into a word processor. It took Zeidman just hours to disprove Lindell's election fraud claims based on the data provided.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
It's not the years, my friend. It's the mileage.
And finally, we explore the world of the unlikely and bizarre with
The deuce, you say?
America's favorite pastime is once again on our radar.
What now?
Can't they just play ball already?
This time, we look at Little League Baseball. Players are small, but the emotions can get big, and it's not always the kids.
It is a full count, so the boy on first base needs to come back to the batter's box.
He had it as a walk.
Well, obviously he's not paying attention to the game because this is the fourth time.
The issue is parents behaving badly. Parents who can't control themselves and yell at the umpires.
That's not right.
It's a kid's game, people. Come on.
Little League coaches and umpires are all volunteers, and the number of people willing to give their time while taking abuse is dwindling. The parents can get so fueled up sometimes. Well, take a look.
You know what I just told him? If you don't,
We already heard you.
I'm gonna forfeit the team.
We're
So
done.
shut up
We're
when the
done.
game's
Okay.
over.
We're
The
done.
game's over.
Okay. Atta boy, huh? Feel better?
I feel fine. You feel okay?
I feel great.
You're in a game for your kid. For what?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you want to argue balls and strikes in a little league game?
Balls and
Come
strikes.
on.
You knocked up like a man to you.
Another word at the game.
Then be fair.
No, wait a second. Did you just hear me? Yeah, I heard you. Okay, you want to have a game here? Chill out. Quiet down. It's a baseball game.
Hey, stay professional for the kids and just do your job.
Come on.
That's it.
Come on.
Are you mad because the kids are taller than you?
Wow. Okay, that's it. See you later. Thanks. Take care, Ariel. Sorry.
So a youth baseball program in Deptford, New Jersey made a rule. If you want to scream at the umps, you also have to become an umpire for 3 games.
Blind up, you're blind up, you must be out of your mind.
If you refuse, they throw you out of the game.
You're out of here!
It's been 847 days since the January 6th attack on the Capitol and our democracy, and the failed former president has still not been indicted or charged with anything related to the insurrection. Watch this space. This has been But Frankly Pierce News. Thanks for watching. I'm Arthur Fairview. Send me a postcard. Drop me a line stating point of view. Indicate precisely what you mean to say. Yours sincerely, Wasting Away.